But the next type of yoga, Krishna says in this mantra, he says, then some take a strict vow to practice the eightfold mysticism. So there are some people, like when you go to India, you will find a lot of people will practice bhakti yoga all over India. It's rare you'll find them practice the Eightfold Path yoga. You will only find the Eightfold Path yogis in the Himalayas. When they have already achieved their siddhas, then they leave the Himalayas, and then you might find one of them in South India, because they go on pilgrimage. They might go to West India, East India, when they already did their tapasya. So the Eightfold Pathway, it's amazing. Krishna makes this point here, yes? And people think, oh, so this is spoken 5,000 years ago. Patanjali came 2,500 years ago and wrote a book called the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And in book 2, mantra 28, 29, Patanjali break down the Eightfold Path. But we can see here, 5,000 years ago, Krishna is already telling us about the Eightfold mystic part. So it's not that Patanjali established, so it's not that Patanjali created. What he did, he restructured it. Yogi has been practicing the Eightfold Path long before Patanjali came. But every now and then an incarnation comes because the practice gets lost or the practice gets watered down. So the Eightfold Paths, normally you meet them in the Himalayas, where the yogis, they first practice their social conduct and their personal conduct. They purify their mind so much, right, the niyamas, that they know how to live in society. So for us, we live in society, so we should practice a level of the Eightfold Path. Those Eightfold Paths, non-stealing, right, the social, non-aggrandizing, things like that, keeping your social community pure. Then your personal conduct, your personal hygiene, remaining clean, taking a shower, keeping a pure heart, things like that. And then asana. So in the West, we can see most people start yoga with asana. They don't start with the philosophy of do's and don'ts. But it's a safer place to start with asana, because you have to follow the yamas and niyamas. You have to be on a high, yogis call it agyata sukriti. You have to get a divine blessing to live like that. So most of the time, we don't tell people to follow the yamas and niyamas yet. We acknowledge they're there. But when someone comes to yoga and they start to do asana, slowly they're going to make those yamas and niyamas by themselves. Someone comes to the yoga class one morning. The night before, they didn't eat much. And then they come to the class and they do all kind of amazing poses. Wow, Yogi Charu, that was amazing. I say, good, yeah. And the next class is 2 days from now. The night before, they had a big meal. They show up to the class. And then their body hesitant to move into the poses. So the person's mind and intelligence starts to click. Oh, for me to do this, I need to minimize my eating after. So you start to, so yoga is an experience. So as you start to experience with asana, the mind starts to get purified. The intellect starts to get purified. All of a sudden, the yamas and niyamas starts to kick in gradually, right? Over a year, day in, day out, a month, you start to see the transformation. You start to live the yamas and niyamas gracefully, right? It comes from within. That's how the yamas and niyamas should be taught. They shouldn't be taught, you have to do this. If someone does it because someone tells them to do it, they won't continue because it's not their choice. If the Yoga Sutras make a choice for you, it's not your choice. The Yoga Sutras and these Vedic texts, these books, they give us techniques. We have to put them into practice and then get the experience. Oh, and then you make your philosophy, make your choice. So when you make a choice from inside, that cannot be shifted because it's an experience. Then the next part is pranayama. After you learn to do your asana, the twisting and bending, then it's easier for you to start to control prana. So the yogis start to work on their pranayam, kumbhak. For yogis, pranayam means retention of the breath. All humans, all plants, all animals are breathing in and out. So when the yogis say pranayam, it doesn't mean breathing in and out. It means retaining the breath, either in or either out. As you hold your breath, it challenges your mind to now comes into the present moment. It's very hard to hold your breath and be thinking of cheesecake. It's very hard to hold your breath and be thinking about the Facebook message. Very hard, right? So for the yogis were very intelligent. So when they established the Eightfold Path, they understood pranayama means kumbhak. So we're going to do some practices today. Kumbhak, how to bring the mind into the present moment. Because the mind will love to go on to the future or the past, right? We have been gifted. Our mind is engineered to set goals in the future. Our mind is engineered to go into the past, memories, so we don't make mistakes. So we have been engineered, but the mind is also engineered with the past and future, the present moment as well. So yoga helps us to bring the mind in the present moment. And then from your kumbhak, when you start to keep the mind in the present more and more, the mind then turns inwards, pratyahara. We call it sense withdrawal, like a turtle. The turtle in danger, pull the senses in, the limbs in. So the yoga, as you hold your breath, your mind turns inwards. When the mind turns inwards, pratyahara, it moves into dharan. We then learn to concentrate the mind. And then from concentration of the mind on one object, Patanjali explains in the Eightfold Path, when he restructured it, he says, if you can concentrate your mind on one object for 12 seconds, only 12 seconds, you have mastered the initial stages of meditation. That's amazing, right? 2,500 years ago, he says, if your mind can be concentrated on one thought for 12 seconds, you have mastered the initial stages of meditation. And then he goes on as he codified, he says, and if you are able to take that 12 seconds to 2 minutes, then you start to reach the higher level, the higher states of meditation. A human today with our engineered mind have a thought comes in, stays for hops out. Another one comes in, stays in the mind, hops out. Then sometimes as soon as this one thought hops out, what happens? Hops right back in. So it's like a merry-go-round, right? Ferris wheel. So we want to be able to, if we can just hold it for 12 seconds, the mind gets quieter, quieter, quieter. But there are steps to it. So we'll do a little practice today where we do a little comeback. Then you'll see it's easier to concentrate the mind. And sometimes a new beginner, boom, they experience. Because the next phase, meditation, dhyan, and samadhi, these are experiences. As you start to experience meditation from your concentrated mind, maybe your hair starts to stand on end. Maybe tears flows from the eyes. Maybe your heart experiences universal love. You connect to the Ishta Devata in the heart, Paramatma. So these are some of the 8 limb paths. So some yogis are gravitated to that. A lot of times when people go to India in the 70s and the 80s, they normally went to South India, right? Because that's where they would go do either Iyengar yoga or Ashtanga yoga. They were the gurus for those practices, the asana, were in South India. But somehow my karma was slightly different. The yogi who introduced me and my friend Tira was from the Himalayas. So a lot of people, you meet a lot of people in India with their yoga mat, and where are you going? South India, Mysore, Pune. We were like, oh yeah, we're heading up to the Himalayas, where it's freezing cold, right? And so it's a tapasya itself. And I'm from the Caribbean, like where the weather is warm, like Hawaii. So could you imagine how I had to change my change my mental power, refine it just to tolerate the cold. So and up there you see the yogis, they go on to those long tapasya where they're holding their breath. Kumbhak. Then they turn it inwards. But that's only a handful of yogis, or let's use the population of India. That's only a handful of Indians who practice that style of yoga. The masses of Indian yogis live in the cities, live all over India, and they'll do more of study the Vedas. They will, like Krishna said already, it's those steps he gave. Some of them, they will control their senses other ways, some through bhakti yoga, through love. So many yogis. There's only a handful. And those rishis in the mountains, you only see them once every 3 years, basically. They come out of the mountains when there's a festival called Kumbh Mela. And there's 4 Kumbh Melas that takes place. And they happen every 12 years in one place. So because there's 4, there's one every 3 years. So every 3 years, there's one in one place, another 3 years, another place. Then it takes 12 years before it comes back to that place. And then there's one called the Mahakumbh Mela. And that's when the population all over India comes, right? 70 million people. If you don't like crowds, it's not for you. But that's the time you will see the rishis come out of the caves. No one sees them on a bus. No one sees them on a train. No one, and they don't have any money because they're completely naked, or they're just covered with ash with their loincloth. And they show up and they come out of thin ether, right? So there are a handful of yogis like that through transcendental sound. So as we study the Vedas, this one makes sense for us. In terms of the Eightfold Path, you will either have a karma for it or you don't have a karma for it. Like I say, my karma took me to the Himalayas. Most other people, their karma took them to South India. Then, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't practice some of it, right? Do some asana, do some pranayama, do some concentration of the mind. Right? You might not do it to that deep extent to those living in a cave, but do it to your degree, right? In your own house. The yogis, we call the house, our house at home, our ashram. So find your corner, and that's your little cave. A lot of times people ask me, Yogi, do you miss the Himalayas? I'm like, nope. Because for me, the Himalayas is a state of consciousness. Whatever I used to do there, I'm doing same thing here in Hawaii. I'm doing same thing in New York. I'm doing, wherever I move, it's a state of consciousness. If I just think it's a place, no. The advanced yogis, you can put an advanced yogi anywhere and they can tap into that same vibration, that same frequency. Yeah. But let's meditate on this one. Let's stretch the legs out, wiggle the ankles, the knees. And then cross the legs back to where you're very comfortable. And bring the palms on the knees. Touch the tip of the thumbs, tip of the index fingers. Close the eyelids softly. As you close the eyelids, bring the whole body into stillness. Kaya sthiram, stillness of the body. And as time progresses, the body will naturally move into stillness more and more. Bring the mind into the present moment, your breath at the entrance of the nostrils. And try not to control the breath. Just be aware of the breath moving in and out. And sensitize the mind a little bit more. See if you can identify the slight temperature change of the breath. The incoming breath is slightly cooler. The outgoing breath is slightly warmer with the body's heat. Sensitize the mind a little bit more. See if you can identify the 4 parts of the breath. There's an inhalation, followed by a split-second retention inside, followed by an exhalation, followed by a split-second retention outside, followed by an inhalation again. Keep witness the 4 parts of the breath now. Move into Samavita Pranayam, equalizing the 4 parts of the breath. Move with me, my pace. Inhale slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath in. Continue equalizing the 4 parts of the breath at your pace. If counts of 4 is too strenuous, decrease it to counts of 3. If counts of 4 is too easy for your lungs, increase it to counts of 5. But no strain, your pace. After you complete the next exhalation, bring the breath back to normal breathing. We'll move into suspending the incoming breath with the outgoing breath. Come back. Inhale deeply as much as you can. Hold the breath. And as you hold the breath, keep your gaze in the center of the eyebrows. Whenever you need the breath, every one of us have different lung capacity. Just sniff in a bit more air and exhale, control. Otherwise, wait for me to tell you to do so. Sniff in a bit of air, everyone. Exhale slowly. Bring the breath back to normal breathing. But keep your gaze in the center of the eyebrows. Witness your mind space. Is it quiet? Or are there thoughts moving in and out? You should see a qualitative difference in the mental pattern. liberating the mind into the present moment. Take a deep inhalation once again. Hold the breath. Keep your gaze center of the eyebrows with the kumbhak. Sniffing a little bit more air and exhale, control. Bring the breath back to normal breathing. Again, you, the spiritual being, the Atma, is just witnessing your mind, the screen, the TV screen of your mind, and check and see if is it quiet or thoughts are moving in and out. One last time, come back, inhale deeply as much as you can. Hold the breath in, and as you hold the breath, this time lower the chin to the chest, shoulders up towards the ears, throat lock. Squeeze the perineum muscles as if you're preventing yourself from going to the loo. With the eyelids softly closed, just gaze into the center of the eyebrows. Release the perineum, lift the chin, sniffing a bit more air. Exhale, control. Breath to normal, but keep looking into your mind space, that space behind the forehead. Great sage Patanjali explains, if we can hold our mind on one object for 12 continuous seconds, we have experienced the initial stages of meditation. As you gaze in the center of your eyebrows, I want you to choose an object that comes naturally for you. It can be a letter, a number, a symbol, maybe the maybe the cross, maybe an apple, whatever you choose. Keep that object steady in the mind now. Don't change the color. Choose one color for it. Keep it steady. Don't let it mutate. Only that object exists in your mind. This time, I want you to keep the object in the mind, but with your comeback. Inhale deeply. Hold the breath in, and as you hold the breath, keep your object center of the eyebrows now. Release the object from the mind. Bring your awareness to the breath, sniffing a bit more air. Exhale, control. Breath to normal. Just gaze into the mind space once again. Just witness. Is the mind quiet? Is the mind busy? Maybe the mind space might have colors, light, shapes. Just be a detached witness. And now, instead of being a passive witness of the mind, I want you to move into the memory of your mind and remember a time in this life when you did an act of charity. Whichever part of our karma evolution with our karmic economics, if a pauper can also give charity, a wealthy person can give charity, every one of us can give charity. Remember a time when you did a beautiful charity act with your economic development. Maybe you sponsor a child somewhere, you sponsor something. It is the nature of our spiritual self to do charitable work. Remember a time you were charitable? Now. And leave that image away. Bring your concentration of the mind to the chest region. Find your heart beating. We've been sitting for a while, so it's easier to find the heartbeat now. Where the heart is beating is where the true spiritual being resides, the Atma. And right next to us is the Paramatma, or your Ishta Devata, the Lord in the heart, who has this quality of charity in its fullest. Humbly will request the Lord to bless you with this quality of charity more and more. The Ishtadeva has a concentrated mind, a peaceful mind. Humbly request the Lord in the heart to bless you with this quality of a calm, concentrated, peaceful mind. Leaving the heart space, take your awareness back to the breath, externalize the consciousness, take a deep inhalation, exhale slowly, move the fingers slowly, bring the palms to the heart, lower the brain, the skull, the eyes towards your higher self, the Atma, towards the Lord in the heart. Namaste. Lift the head, open the eyes, Hari Om, Tat Sat.